Good evening, everyone. My name is Conor Kirwan, and I sit on the Wicklow Public Participation Network Secretariat. On behalf of the Wicklow PPN and Wicklow Older People's Council, I would like to extend a warm welcome to everybody joining us tonight. To highlight, Wicklow PPN has 458 diverse member groups, including older people's groups, migrant groups, cultural groups, disability support groups, refugee support groups, residents associations, LGBTQIA+ groups, sports groups, community councils, women and men sheds, environmental groups, traveller groups, and many more diverse groups around our community. Wicklow Older People's Council is also rich in its diversity. We would like to thank all our PPN members and the Older People's Council for working with us on this event and for sending in your questions. There was a great response, and with less than 2 hours at our disposal, it would be impossible to have them all answered. We have prioritised the questions that had a recurring theme and will aim to get as many answered as possible. However, we have also sent all the questions to the candidates so that they are aware of what's important to our communities. We would like to thank the candidates who have joined us this evening. We appreciate your engagement with us and our community and look forward to hearing about why you are running and what's important to you. Additionally, we would like to thank Dr. Harriet Emerson for agreeing to facilitate tonight's meeting. Dr. Emerson has worked with PPNs at local and national level for a number of years. Dr. Emerson acts as an independent facilitator in a wide range of engagement contexts. Helen Grania of the Wicklow PPN, who you all know very well, will support Harriet with timekeeping webinar support. Tonight's meeting will begin with each candidate providing us with some information about themselves. Candidates will be permitted with a maximum of 90 seconds. It is of the utmost importance that candidates stick to this time frame to allow everybody equal participation and speaking time and to ensure there is additional time for questions. A clock will run and will be visible on the screen beside Grania, and should candidates overrun, we will mute them after 5 seconds. Nevertheless, in the spirit of cooperation, we know we won't need to do this. In corresponding with the candidates, apologies. In corresponding with the candidates prior to this meeting, we have asked that where they cite facts or figures, they should also provide their information source or evidence base. Wicklow PPN and Wicklow Older People's Council value diversity, and we operate in the principles of respect, equality, and inclusion across all the 9 Qualities Act 2019. As public polity, we have a responsibility to promote equality, prevent discrimination, and protect human rights under the Public Sector Equality and Human Rights Duty as originated in Section 42 of the Irish Human Rights and Equality Act 2014. We expect that everyone on this call conducts themselves in the spirit, the respectful spirit of that. However, in the unlikely event that dialogue should become insulting, abusive, incendiary, or inappropriate, we reserve the right to remove the perpetrator. It is the role of Wicklow PPN and Wicklow Older People's Council to support our members to have their voices heard. We do this in the most part by making supportive connections. We are looking forward to making connections this evening that we hope will be beneficial for everybody now and going forward into the future. Be advised and note that we are recording this session and we will make this available to our membership who are unable to attend this evening. and it is a public recording. I would like now to pass this meeting into Dr. Emerson's very capable hands. Thank you all this evening.
Thanks very much, Conor, and welcome everybody again. It's my job to make sure that the questions that were submitted by the PPN and the Older People's Council members are put to the candidates for their response. The questions have been grouped together where they refer to the same topic, and we do need candidates to keep their responses brief and on point to allow everyone the time to speak and to ensure that members' inputs are honoured. So unfortunately, there's not going to be time for debate. I'd again remind candidates that they must communicate their views respectfully and without negatively targeting any individuals or specific groups, particularly in this forum where there's no opportunity for people to respond. As Conor said, if the coordinating group considers comments to be insulting or provocative, incendiary, inappropriate, or so on, then that person will be removed. There'll be no opportunity for discussion about any decision like that, and the meeting will just continue as we've outlined. Obviously, that sort of action will be taken very reluctantly, but for this session, the most important thing is to keep the space respectful and safe. Okay, that's our priority. So before I ask candidates to introduce themselves, what I'm going to do is to ask you all to commit, please, to this first question, which is to agree to express your views respectfully and without negatively targeting any individuals or specific groups. So I'm just going to go down the list of candidates alphabetically. I'm just going to ask if you can confirm that to me, please. Okay. So the first person I'd like to ask that to is Danny Alvey, please.
Yes.
That was a yes.
Okay. Yes. I'm not sure if I have to say much more than that, but yes, I commit to those principles.
Thank you very much. And secondly, to Sonia Casey-Shortt, please.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you. To Mia Fahey McCarthy, please.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you. To Anthony Hill.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you. To Mary Kavanagh.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you. To John Larkin. Sorry, John, you're on mute.
Yes, I agree with those principles, yes.
Thank you. Okay. Just to let everybody know that we do have apologies for lateness from Graham Richmond. I think he has another commitment, so he'll join us if he can. And I will ask him to make the same commitment if he arrives into the session. Okay. So thank you all very much for doing that. That's great. The first thing we're going to start with, as Conor outlined, is to ask each of the candidates to take just a minute and a half to essentially introduce themselves, inform us of which party, if any, they're affiliated to and why they're standing. Okay. This is a constant challenge running against the clock, and I'm sure we'd all love to do it differently. But in order for fairness, this is how it's going to work. What I'll do is start working alphabetically as I've just done. But as we go around each additional question, I'll start, if you like, further down the alphabet. So we'll keep rolling it around. If that doesn't make sense, and it sounds as clear as mud, hopefully it will all become good in a short while. But in the first instance, could I? And the other thing to say is, I do know your names. I know they're on the screen, but I will, when I come to ask you to speak, give you your full name, because I think that's what people will be seeing on the ballot paper, and it's important that that's what you're identified as. Okay. So, and if I make a mistake in any way on that, please feel free to correct it when you start speaking. Okay. So, to give us a minute and a half on yourself, why you're standing, and your party affiliation, if any, I'm going to come first to Danny Alvey, please.
Great, thank you. It's not alphabetical every time because I think I'll get picked on first each time, and thankfully I can speak very fast, so hopefully I should be able to stick to the 90 seconds. My name's Danny Alvey. I'm running in the Wicklow local electoral area on behalf of the Social Democrats. I grew up in Wicklow town, where my family's been involved with the community for many generations. Now I live in Newtown, Mount Kennedy, with my partner and 2 young children. I work as a fundraising manager for St. Vincent de Paul, where I travel the country meeting people of all different backgrounds who are struggling to make ends meet. As a volunteer, I'm vice chairperson of Newtown Tidy Towns and co-founder and chairperson of Rewild Wicklow. For anyone who hasn't heard of us, my siblings and I set this group up in 2021 to be a part of any nature restoration activities happening across the county. Since then, it has grown hugely in size, and we now have over 1,500 volunteers on our database and have worked on over 30 different sites across the county. Last year, the group also achieved full charity status. I'm running for the election because I'm passionate about the environment, which I think is obvious, but also I want to address the many social issues we face in this county. The housing crisis is one of the most obvious, which I unfortunately know all too well, as I've been living in my parents-in-law's house for the past 5 years, and we recently had our second child. So I think we need to vastly expand our house building ambitions through the local council, but also match this house building with improved facilities. Last year, I used my grant writing experience to help 2 local football clubs do their first sports capital grants, which I hope they'll be successful in very soon. So from everyone I've spoken to canvassing, we desperately need to have these improved facilities along with expanded public transport.
Thank you very much, Danny. You got in there just before that guillotine after the 5-second grace. So that's wonderful. If we can try and keep it working like this, it will be off to a great start. So next to Sonia Casey-Shortt, please.
Hello, and thank you everybody for this opportunity to engage with you tonight. I'm a first-time candidate and I'm running for Fianna Fáil. I'm a public service servant and I believe in public service, and this is really why I put myself forward to represent our community. I'm from Bolanas. It's a tiny townland between Ashford and Roundwood. I've been lucky enough to live there my whole life. It's where my family's from. I have a degree in public administration and also a master's in the area. I've worked in our public health service for the past 27 years. I'm the HR manager currently for the Dublin Midlands Hospital Group, and we have 15,000 staff. So as you can imagine, I deal with people all day, every day. I hear their problems and I try to help them. And I know I get great satisfaction when I can help people, but that's not always possible. And when I can't help people, I recognize the most important thing is to get back to them and communicate with them and explain why I'm not able to solve their problems. And I suppose I really commit to doing this, keeping up that open communication if I'm successful enough to be elected to the council. And then just on my priorities and issues, it's about housing, all sorts of housing, affordable, sociable, one-off rural planning. But we can't have houses without community facilities. So community facilities and infrastructure, and then transport is the other main issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sonia. That's great. The same then, please, to Fahey McCarthy.
Hi, good evening, everybody, and thank you again for the opportunity to speak to you all. My name is Fahey McCarthy, and I am based in Newtown, Mount Kennedy, and have been there for the last 18 years, and spent 2 years before that in Wicklow Town. I'm running with the Green Party in the Wicklow Local Area District, election area district, and I suppose my background is, currently I work as head of sustainability with an energy company. My background is quite varied. I trained as a psychotherapist and worked as a psychotherapist for a number of years. I've also worked in frontline addiction services, one of those being in Brien. And I have, I suppose, done a lot of community development work over the years. And part of that would be what has attracted me to running as a candidate in the local elections. I have a young family, a 3-year-old, who I'm slightly distracted because she's just going off to bed at the moment, so I can hear her in the background. And again, part of my reason for running is seeing her and seeing the community that we grow up in and wanting the best for kind of the next generation that's coming through, but also equally mindful of an older generation that's there. My mother lives in Wicklow Town. I don't know how grateful she would for me describing her as older, but she is, and issues around kind of mobility and transport and access to those various services are really important. So I think it'll be, I suppose, being able to affect some change within the council would be something. And that's, yeah, sorry, I'm so jumbled, but that is why I'm running. Sorry.
Great, thank you. And now we'll move on to Anthony Hill, please.
Yeah, how are you doing? Thanks a million for this opportunity to engage with you all. I just want to wish all the candidates the best of luck in the upcoming election. It's a very exciting time for us all. It's my first time running. So this journey has been a roller coaster, and but I'm loving it. I'm a real social person by nature, so I actually enjoy knocking doors and talking to people and hearing their stories. So just a little bit about myself. I've grew up in Wicklow town, lived here my whole life. I went to the local St. Patrick's B&S school and then to the De La Salle and finished my schooling in CCM. I then went on to do a course in Biffy, and after that I done my level 8 degree out in Claremont, out here in Rathnew as part of the Carlow IT and the Wicklow campus. So, and then I've just finished my master's in DCU in psychology. So, but I suppose like I just mentioned there, the Claremont access to education is a massive thing for me because that's what really got me where I am today. Also, I'm passionate about young people and trying to provide more opportunities for them because it was through my own experience, my own story, my youth worker in my life got me at that critical time in development where I needed a bit of guidance and positive influence, and it was through herself that she steered me in the right direction. So I'm always very grateful for that. Obviously, housing's a big issue. Public transport, support networks for the elderly and the sick, and more support for workers facing cost of living crisis. Thanks very much, and yeah, great.
Lovely. Thanks very much, Anthony. And Mary Kavanagh, please.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mary Kavanagh and I'm from Wicklow Town, and I'm an independent candidate for the Wicklow Municipal District. I was first co-opted onto the council in 2016 following the death of my late sister Pat Kavanagh, who was also an independent councillor. I ran in the 2019 local elections and I was successfully elected. I'm a member of the Economic Development and Enterprise Support Strategic Policy Committee with Wicklow County Council and a member of the board of Wicklow Enterprise Park and Wicklow Gael. The things I want to see happen in my municipal district are the provision of affordable homes and amenities such as playgrounds and sporting facilities should support all the recent housing development in the area. If re-elected, I intend following up on these to ensure that they are delivered in our areas. Other things I'm passionate about are the environment and protecting our heritage. Some of the projects I've worked on and I'm still working on are the provision of toilets at the harbour, the coastal erosion problem at the Morra, and I'm working with local people and the town team to install a quality BMX pump track beside the skate park and to develop a 42-kilometre Camino-style walk from Wicklow to Glendalough, which will take in all the villages along the way and should provide a wonderful tourist attraction for walkers at home and abroad. And I want to wish everybody the best of luck in the election. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary. And we also come to John Larkin, please.
My name is John Larkin. I am the independent candidate from Newtown on Kennedy. Being an independent candidate means that I am answerable and accountable to the voter on the doorstep and not like a party candidates who are subject to the policies of a political party. I hail from Ardmore in County Waterford, where I was a refugee from agriculture, but thanks to Dunne O'Malley and free education, I became a public servant at the Eastern Health Board. My background is health, and after 43 years, I would consider myself a know-all on health matters. In this election, my priority issue is housing, and the blame for the failure to deliver social and affordable houses lies with Wicklow County Council and their councils for not building houses commensurate year on year with the housing lists. Another issue in housing I can see are the housing associations buying up houses which should be available to the first-time buyers. These cash-rich housing associations are outpricing the first-time buyer. I support planning for housing developments and once-off planning for houses within reason. We need far greater transparency at local level, and I will strive for that. To Newtown on Kennedy, as the fastest-growing village in Ireland, Newtown demands a secondary school. However, in the interim, most parents yearly have a nightmare waiting places in CCA Kilcoo. KWTV are well aware of this issue and have been aware of this issue for many years, but are utterly competent on it and fit for purpose. CTV is, as a crime deterrent, is a no-brainer, and all housing estates should have ANPR CTV systems and are GDP compliant like Season Park. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Okay, as I mentioned, we may be joined by Graham Richmond. I should also say that we have 4 apologies from candidates who weren't able to be here this evening. That's Gail, Dunne, Shane Langrell, Paul O'Brien and Abbie Loughlin. So just so that everybody's aware that they did submit apologies for not being able to attend this evening. Okay, so we're going to move on to some of the questions that have come in from the PPN member groups and also from members of the Older People's Council. In some areas, there were many questions. The candidates have been sent all of the questions, the absolutely full list, and also those that we've grouped together to ask this evening. I may jump about randomly in the list or nearly randomly in the list simply because we've tried to change things up as we've done these recordings and hustings in the last few municipal districts. So what I'm going to do is ask the question, and then we're going to start on this occasion. I'm going to go first of all to Sonia Casey-Shortt and go down then alphabetically from there, coming back to Danny Alvey. And I'm going to ask the question, and I'll make a couple of references to some of the issues that were raised in the multiple questions. So the question itself is a sort of summary of many that came in on that issue. I'll ask the question, make a few references, and then hand over. And we've just got a minute each on these. And I appreciate that it's a horribly tight guillotine to try and get in ahead of. But again, it's just so we can try and get through as many questions as possible. So the first question and the first issue that we're looking at this evening is, what will you do if elected to address traffic and transport issues in Wicklow? And you could reference any number of issues, but some of these are what were raised. It had to do with disabled parking spaces, parking for people with particular needs, and particularly those with disabilities, and also to do with the train stations and essentially to have accreditation for that. Okay, so the question is, what will you do if elected to address traffic and transport issues in Wicklow? Okay, and I'm going to ask that question first for a minute to Sonia Casey-Shortt, please.
Thank you. I've been hearing transport as an issue on the doorsteps as I've been canvassing, and that's why I mentioned earlier, it's one of my 3 priorities. I think we will all agree that the current public transport system is not fit for purpose, whether it's for the commuter, whether it's student transport, or whether it's a rural community that needs the connectivity. So I think we need increased public transport for Wicklow, and that's both rail and bus transport. But we need public transport that is reliable and convenient and cost effective. It needs to be the speedy option. We need a loop bus for the town itself to connect various services, and we need the local link bus. We have one from Salins in Kildare down into Arklow, and it's a great addition, but we need more frequency. And then just around the age-friendly and disability parking spaces, I would call for an immediate review.
Thank you, Sonia. The same question, please, to Mia Fahey McCarthy.
I suppose similarly to Sonia, in terms of the transport issue, it's probably in the top 2 issues that comes up on the doorsteps. Given that with the Green Party, there has been a rollout of Rural Link 1 a week, a different route, but there's still definitely more that can be done. Even yesterday evening, I was speaking to somebody in Glenealy who made the point that the bus that stops at her stop in Glenealy, when it arrives in Rathnew, it arrives 5 minutes after the bus to Bray and Dublin have passed, and therefore she needs to wait a whole hour for the next bus. So it's that joined up thinking piece that we can have these rural links, we can have a bus that goes around the town, but making sure that they also connect with the other services that are there. And similarly, I think in terms of the train links, making sure the frequency of them suits the actual residents. So those that need to get into the city, whether it be for work, leisure, for educational reasons, for hospital appointments, that the frequency is there for those. And again, with the parking piece, ensuring, I suppose, that those who should have availability and access to those parking spots are minded to.
Great, thank you, Mia. Okay, the same question to Anthony Hill, please.
Yeah, so just quickly on transport, from knocking the doors, I've been hearing particularly from from people out in Rathnew there, because the bus goes past the Port Road, and there's a lot of people up in like Hazelbrook and all them estates that they just can't. It's too far away. Like, so I suppose, I don't know, maybe we could look at something to kind of go in and around that area, so it'd be able to reach a lot more people. And just quickly on the whole public or the access thing. I myself am a social care worker. I work with lads with autism, like, and I understand how important it is to have ease of access to shops and community outlets. And just a little personal story, I suppose, as well. We had a friend there who used to live out in Barndurrick, and he recently got a move into Wicklow Town, and just on the edge of the street there. And now he has his own little mobility scooter, but his life has changed dramatically since he has access to all these amenities. And it's very, very important for vulnerable cohorts of people to have access to these amenities.
Thank you, Anthony. And the same question, please, to Mary Kavanagh.
Thank you. Like everybody, one of the things that I'm constantly being asked about is a local link or some kind of taxi service that does a loop of the town and maybe even extends out as far as Rathnew. A loop that could bring people to shopping centres, to their doctor's appointments, and not have to wait hours to get a return bus or taxi, which is very expensive. So I did look into this before. I was told that it wasn't economically viable. A local company said, you know, it wouldn't be economically viable for them, but I did try and follow it up with Local Link, and I was told that it wasn't on their agenda at this time, but I wouldn't give up on it because I think the demand is there. Now, with regard to some of the issues about parking spots, I see there's a petition in to move the AIB parking spot. I would certainly support that, but just to let people know that it was moved because there were a lot of complaints that wheelchairs were slipping on the hill. It wasn't easy to open a door when you're on a hill. I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And yes, I'm sorry again that the timekeeping is brutal. So John Larkin on the same question, please. You're still on mute. Sorry,
You're on
John.
mute, John.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes,
Yeah,
we
okay.
can.
Yeah, I was canvassing in Glebemount last night, and a gentleman asked me about this. Well, he was quite irate the way he was on about the trains that leave from Wicklow to Dublin. They're very infrequent, and one goes around, I think, 9, and the next one doesn't go to around 12. So he was, you know, he felt that Wicklow was, he was expressing a view that maybe the Dart, if possible, could be moved down from Greystones to Wicklow Town. And the other issues that came up with regard to public transport is that I was in Killisky, and there's children there, they go from Killisky down to the Gael School in Arklow. And because they didn't get a local link, I think, from Wicklow Town back out to Killisky. But the problem is that the stop now has changed, so they can't get off in Killisky. So I think the next one is Roundwood or Ashford. So it's kind of defeats itself. So, like, you should, by right, it just, if it stopped in Killisky, I don't know if you know Killisky, but it's okay. The other one I was going to do was Roundwood, right? Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, John. Everybody's gonna struggle getting used to this cutoff with the timing. The same question, please, to Danny Alvey.
I'll just start by saying I support the ambitious vision of the local town team and municipal district when they sought to introduce the one-way system in Wicklow Town. It's obviously not been without its issues, and a number of them still need to be worked through. But I think the vision of trying to make the town easier for traffic management and more accessible for pedestrians was definitely a good one. However, one of the big issues that remains is clearly disability parking spaces, and I've heard this from people on the doors as well. The one-way system is definitely not a closed book in my eyes, and I will absolutely work with the district engineer to try identify and rectify these issues, such as disabled parking spaces being in the right location. But beyond that, I think something the town needs is an accessibility audit for the whole town and for drivers and pedestrians alike. If you look on the council website, there is some historic historic audits like this done, but there is none for Wicklow Town. And the last time one was done in Newtown or Ashford was 2008. So we'll definitely push for a new accessibility audit in all of our growing towns and villages.
Thank you very much, Sonia, and thank you, everybody. The challenge about the clock is one that I think we all get used to, but nobody ever gets to like. Okay, so the second question that we're going to move on to is the change of focus now to climate action. And the question is, which climate actions do you see as urgent locally within this municipal district? So you'll be aware that the County Council has recently adopted its climate action plan, and the questions are coming in asking what of the actions contained in that do you think should be implemented or implemented as a priority, and how would you advocate to protect the Murrah from further erosion? So those are the types of things that are coming up, and the question in its broadest sense is, which climate actions do you see as urgent locally within this municipal district? And I'm going to start, please, with Mia Fahey McCarthy, please.
Thank you. I think the big focus it has to be on, in the first instance, being able to protect the natural habitats that we have and the natural scenic kind of attributes that we have within the Wicklow area. I think in terms of the Murrah piece, the erosion, everybody's very well aware of the erosion that's happened there over the years, and it's been, I suppose, left neglected and unattended, and we're at a situation where the side of the land is basically falling into the sea and getting very close to the rail line as well. So that definitely needs attention. I think working very much with the biodiversity officers and the environmental officers that are within the Wicklow County Council, and now that the climate action plan has been adopted, being able to really kind of, I suppose, put a focus on where the first works need to be. So in terms of that enhancement piece and the protection piece, given that we have this biodiversity that we really need to kind of look to and attend to now before it's too late and before, you know, the Murrah, there isn't any saving it effectively.
Thank you, Mia. Okay, the same question to Anthony Hill, please.
Yeah, so obviously, well, from knocking the doors, what I'd say in the top three issues in the Wicklow town area is coming up about the Murrah, and obviously it's a big part of our heritage as local people. And like for generations, people have went on nature walks and enjoyed their leisurely time up there. Like, so I think something has to be done before it's too late, as Mia said there. I did attend the recent consultation for the Greenway, the Wicklow town to Greystones, and I asked the engineer specifically about the Murrah, and he referred me on to Irish Rail and the Department for the Environment in the council. So I followed up with Irish Rail, but I still have to get in contact with the Department for the Environment. Anyway, the point is that it needs to be pursued and something needs to be done about it before it's too late. Hopefully a more proactive approach is taken before we're left without it, like, because it's not right. Like, something needs to be done.
Thank you, Anthony. The same question to Mary Kavanagh, please.
Thank you. Well, with regard to the Murrah, I was involved in a Save the Murrah campaign before I was a councillor. So about 9 years ago, we held a public meeting in the Grand Hotel, which about 300 people attended. And at that time, we were given all kinds of assurances and that something would be done. But unfortunately, when it comes to erosion, time is never on your side, and too many years have passed. Now, I'm well aware that Irish Rail have an ECRIP plan, that's the East Coast Railway Protection Infrastructure Plan, underway, but it's a 10-year plan and we're at year 3. So I have contacted a couple of TDs in the area, and just this week I had a visit from another TD who's running for Europe, and I asked him, if he gets elected, will he do anything he can to try and speed up the process, because I really believe that 10 years is far too long for us, because the Murrah does not have 10 years. But in the meantime, I was proactive in getting the new path installed on the Murrah when the front of the Murrah collapsed. I asked the council to install one at the back, so at least access to the Murrah would continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. The same question to John Larkin, please.
Hi, John here. I have canvass along the seafront in Wicklow and around that way, but it hasn't come up yet on the doorsteps. But I'm well aware of the Mora and how it should be preserved. The only solution that I can see, and I know I'm going to come from a coastal village myself down in County Waterford, is that the erection of boulders are about, I know them sometimes might be unseen and might be unkempt, but they're the only option you have if you were to block the sea from eroding the coastline, and especially where you have a highland dropping in from high down onto the beach. So the erection of boulders, to me, are, you have them also, the sleepers they tried, but sometimes they're not that effective. So if you looking for a solution, the only option you really have is the boulders to keep the sea out as much as possible, and that would be my solution to the problem.
Thank you. Thanks, John.
Okay.
The same question to Danny Alvey, please.
Well, no surprises. Just to go back to the climate action plan, no surprises given my background with Rewild Wicklow. I'd really like to see all the land under council ownership audited to see how we can best sequester carbon and create native habitats for biodiversity. So much can be done with even small spaces in terms of planting native hedgerows. We recently planted a hedgerow down along the Leitrim River with Tidy Towns and the town team, and it's growing very well. And it's also doubling as a screen to the graffiti wall. But it's amazing how much these small acts are getting people to talk and consider things like this. In terms of the Murr, I think there's 4 potential things at play here. There is the Cottle Wind Park going in out at sea. There's the need for the Irish Rail to protect the train line, the long mooted coastal protection works that Mary referenced, and indeed the plan for a greenway between Wicklow Town and Greystones. So what I would really like to see is some joined up thinking between the 4 of these all happening at the same time, that they could complement one another, and perhaps a raised greenway or a boardwalk could be used to protect the coastline.
Thank you very much, Danny. And Sonia Casey-Shortt, please.
Great, thank you. I think, first of all, back to our previous question about transport, I think if we can get people out of their cars and onto public transport, it will help with our carbon emissions and help to reduce those. I think that the cars are a big polluter, and if we had, progress on and development in our public transport, that would go a long way. And then I think the retrofitting of the current county council housing stock is an initiative under the climate action plan that should be prioritised. The retrofitting will obviously provide warmer houses for tenants, and that will, of course, help with cost of living crisis for people in reducing their cost of heating, but also contribute to our climate action initiatives. And then, sorry, just on the Mara, I think it's a fabulous amenity that we all know and love, and it really needs to be protected. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Okay, we're going to move on again, another shift in focus, this time to looking at social housing. And the question really relates to your commitment to ensuring housing for all in this particular municipal district, including older people and people with disabilities, and what you will do if elected to reduce the council housing waiting list. So the question is around your commitment to ensuring housing for all, particularly including older people and people with disabilities. And I'm going to come first, please, to Anthony Hill.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so obviously as the Sinn Féin candidate, Sinn Féin his main thing is housing. Like, we really need to tackle this issue head on. We need to build more affordable and social housing, but we also need to, like, I've noticed this from going around to all the doors, like the amount of vacant houses in the Wicklow area, it's disgraceful, really, to be honest with you. And something needs to be done to get them up to livable standards and get people moved in. Like, I kind of can't believe we're in a housing crisis, and we have, in one of the local estates here, there's 20 vacant houses, and like, we're in a housing crisis. I just don't understand that. Like, so, but if I get elected to the council, I'll be proactive in my approach to trying to sort out these issues, and really focusing on communicating with people, helping them along in the process wherever they're at their stage, and really trying to get something done and get people into housing, because housing, as you know yourself, is the most basic need, and for us to grow as individuals, we need to have that main core stable foundation.
Thank you, Anthony. Okay, the same question to Mary Kavanagh, please.
Thank you. One of the things that I'm constantly working on are applications for social housing. But one thing that really disappoints me is the recent report from the Housing Commission, which really clearly shows that policies are not working. We need to ensure that housing developments cannot be sold en bloc to investment funds and leave ordinary people out in the cold, couples and single people who require housing. We should be striving for that the average person can buy the average house on the average wage. And that's what it was like when I was 35 years ago when I bought my house. And that's what it should still be like. We should still have affordable housing in this country. And I think it's an absolute disgrace that we don't. We need, the Housing Commission says we need a radical reset. And I agree with that. How that's going to be achieved will have to be done at Dáil level by the government. I'm out of time.
Thank you, Mary. I'm going to ask the same question to John Larkin, please.
This is one of my favorite issues. It's one of the most passionate issues that I have on my leaflet. Starting out in the very first night here in Newtown on Kennedy, I was in a house there, and this woman is 9 years. She's on the waiting list. She has a daughter in third level education, and she invited me in, and we sat there for ages. And you could feel the hopelessness was palpable there, like 9 years wait on a housing list, and nothing done about it. Like the fault, as I said at the preamble, lies with Wicklow County Council and the councils for not building adequate number of houses commensurate with in the same in other counties, commensurate with the waiting lists. And the waiting lists have grown and grown, and but they haven't kept the pace with that. It's the same there. There's people, I've met several people. One man, he's on his father's couch. He has to use that. Another man is sleeping in his own van, and it's just not. It's just ridiculous.
Thank you, John. The same question, please, to Danny Alvey.
Yeah, the housing crisis is undoubtedly the biggest failure of the last 10 years of government. I know that all too well. When I was expecting my first child with my partner, the only hope we had of getting our own house was to move out of private rented accommodation and move in with her parents. We thought we'd be there for 1 or 2 years, but the price of housing in Wicklow just keeps climbing. So it took us 5 years before we were able to afford our own home, and we're very lucky. We've actually just moved in this very week, but I know we're some of the lucky ones, but it shouldn't be this hard because we had 2 decent incomes coming in. So for anybody else, I just don't know how they foresee getting on into their own housing. In terms of social housing, undoubtedly there's a massive deficit there. The Housing Commission report just recently published says there's a deficit of 250,000 homes across the country. So there's so much work needs to be done in that area. Likewise to what Anthony was saying, I've seen a lot of vacant homes when I've been out canvassing, and I think it's absolutely scandalous that some of those social housing estates have so many vacant homes that could be easily taken back into use.
Thank you, Danny. Same question to Sonia Casey-Shortt, please.
Right, thank you. I think first off, a bit of credit where credit is due. Wicklow County Council has made progress in terms of social housing. There's been 1,849 social houses delivered in Wicklow from 2020 to 2023, and 407 houses refurbished under the Void programme during the same period. So, and also the social housing waiting list has decreased significantly as well. So I think a bit of credit there, and the work that has been done needs to be recognised, but obviously there's an awful lot more work to be done. And if I'm elected to the council, I would be working to ensure that more houses are delivered, whether they be social houses, affordable housing, cost rental, service sites that we used to have, which were a fantastic initiative, but also once-off rural housing. And I think, everything needs to be done in this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. And to Mia Fahey McCarthy, please.
Thank you. Yeah, like others have said, I think it's really about the being able to provide the options of various types of housing. I was lucky back in 18 years ago when I was 26 to be able to buy my own home, and that was through the affordable housing scheme at the time. I don't know how people do it nowadays. I look at my nieces and nephews who are all into their 30s who are living at home with their parents. And again, as Danny says, they've got good incomes coming in and they just can't afford to buy a home. I think in 2024 in Ireland, it's a sorry state for us to be in terms of the options that are there. As others have said, when you go around canvassing, you see the amount of derelict homes that are there. And a lot of them are in a decent state where it wouldn't take much to basically bring them up to a level where somebody could move into them. So I think being able to take stock of what is actually out there and being able to look at that, and also then prioritizing other options, as somebody had mentioned too, the cost rental approach. So being able to look at not just the home ownership, which as a country we're very kind of tied to, but other options where you can have long-term tenancies and you have that stability as well. So looking at those options too.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on again to another question. This is a slight shift, and it's looking at community groups and how you will support local community groups. And there is a particular issue that came up here in relation to getting Coláiste Kilmontáin to allow their facilities to be used by local clubs. And so that idea about facilities support, funding comes up. Really, how would you support local community groups that are doing such a lot within the county and within this municipal district? And I'm going to ask that question first to Mary Kavanagh, please.
Well, one of the things that was raised was approaching CCM to allow them to use the facilities. So if re-elected, I would have no problem making representation to CCM. I'm quite sure that they would have to have certain things in place, such as insurances to cover public liability outside of school hours and things like that. But I'm quite sure everything could be on the table. But at the end of the day, what we really need are our own community sporting facilities. And there is a master plan in place. It's just at the very early stages, a sports master plan for sporting facilities out at Brideshead. And I would really love, if I'm re-elected, to see that hurried up and spurred along, because we really do need facilities. We have an athletics club that is desperately in need of facilities, a basketball club which is desperately in need of facilities. We need those kinds of community facilities ASAP. So if I'm re-elected, I will work hard to get those.
Thank you, Mary. Can I ask the same question to John Larkin, please?
Yeah, it's actually, this only came up during the week with Newtown Juniors, and we had the meeting with the CAT down in Arklow, and the problem there is that they were with the community centre in Newtown, but they no longer have those facilities available to them. So the problem that they have is that they need to raise something like €20,000 to get the facilities at the pitch. So the big area needs to be done there is that we need to get more community grants. I mean, Newtown is the fastest growing village in Ireland, and we contribute, because of something like 25,000 per house of development fees, we contribute more than any other village or town in Wicklow, yet we get so little back. The reasons that is because we hadn't had no representation either in it at the council, or we've no representation in the Dáil. Oh, sorry. Okay, go ahead. It's okay.
Thank you, John. Okay, I'm going to ask the same question to Danny Alvey, please.
Yeah, there's a real gap in sports facilities in this district, considering all the population growth in recent years. We've not seen enough new facilities being developed. In the new Wicklow Town zoning map that is currently being developed, I'd like to see an area zoned somewhere potentially along the Hawkstown Road for an all-in-one community centre, which could incorporate some of those desperately needed facilities such as basketball court, pitches, running track, and for all the relevant sports clubs to be involved in that process. I think it's mad to think Wicklow Town does not have a community centre like this, considering the size of the town and how other smaller places in the county have far better community centres than Wicklow Town does. In regards to the specific question on the sharing of facilities between clubs and with schools, I think this is a very practical solution that should be encouraged, and I'd be very happy to help with those negotiations. In my own line of work with St Vincent de Paul, we have 900 local branches around the country in over 40 different resource centres and services. So I'm well used to brokering agreements over use between the different branches and helping to allocate funding between them.
Thank you, Danny. The same question to Sonia Casey-Shortt, please.
Thank you. I suppose first off, just to say my campaign is rooted in community development. I firmly believe that we need increased community and sporting facilities. I've called on our government to allocate money from Future Ireland Fund. We have, there is a 3.5 billion allocated and earmarked for climate change initiatives, and an equivalent investment should be made available to address the shortfall in community facilities and services. You know, it's an investment in our future, and I think it's badly needed, and there is a mechanism there to get extra funding, as I say, for community facilities and sporting facilities through the Future Ireland Fund. Then just specifically around the community groups using our schools out of hours, our party has given a commitment in the local election manifesto that school facilities will be made available. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Can I ask the same question to Mia Fahey McCarthy, please?
Thank you. Yeah, I think there's a couple of approaches to take to this. I think one of them being around the development, the future development of housing estates, for example, where there's green spaces are normally allocated and have to be kind of put in as part of the planning. But looking at how those green spaces are used, are they actually material green spaces, or are they kind of just to tick a box and meet a requirement? So I think in terms of kind of some of those sporting facilities or amenities with real purpose could be built into further infrastructure in terms of housing development. So that's one piece to look at. And I also think there is a lot of grant funding out there, but it's whether, you know, a lot of groups being volunteering groups have the capacity to potentially keep an eye on what funding is coming up and then also apply for that funding, being able to make the funding process a lot simpler and easier, and whether there's a grants officer within the council who can potentially support and also kind of notify and flag to groups when something is coming up so that they don't miss deadlines as well. Because in some cases there is funding there, it's just whether or not you were able to access it and how you access it. So I think those types of supports would be quite practical.
Thank you, Mia. And to Anthony Hill, please, as well.
So yeah, so infrastructure, services, facilities, obviously the Wicklow East area is an expanding area, and there's so many new housing developments going up and so many new people, and we haven't seen the services, facilities and infrastructure to come with it. Like I was knocking doors the other day and I was talking to a man from the Wicklow Men's Shed, and they've actually lost their building now, so they cannot operate, and it's such a terrible thing to see, because I was up in Newtown's Men's Shed there a couple of months ago, and I seen the facility that they have, and it's amazing, like, you know. And I know Rat New Men's Shed do quite well as well. So I suppose, like I say, we need more services, facilities and infrastructure. Community development, that's my kind of background as well. Like I done a bit of youth work. I've volunteered for 6 years there with a local community centre. I sat on the committee. I've done plenty of work around that. So if I get elected, I will be proactive in getting my own community services up and running. So elect me and I'll let you see.
Thank you, Anthony. Okay, we'll move on to another question then, which has to do with medical care. And the question is, what will you do if elected to advocate for the provision of proper medical care for all in our MD and the county, and in particular for older people? And issues that were mentioned under this related to the lack of pharmacies open in Wicklow on bank holidays, problems around staffing or equipment and facilities in the medical centres, primary healthcare centres, and the interest is in what you can do to advocate for and achieve some of these services in this municipal district. So the question there again is, what will you do if elected to advocate for the provision of proper medical care for all in our municipal district and our county? And I'm going to start that question by asking John Larkin, please.
Yeah, as I said, I spent 43 years in the health services, and the main focus of what I would be proposing is community-based medicines or community-based services as opposed to primary, as opposed to secondary care. And the big opportunity would be is to have services for older people. And the one we had in mind it was Trudder House, and we 5 years ago I campaigned hard for that, and even Donnelly met us, and he at his request, and I said all the facilities that we could have put there, like we could have put a hospital at the home, and I don't know if you're aware of that. That's where you'd have highly trained nurses, that they would be very experienced, also they would then be able to do all the services that the doctors could do. They could also be able to do all the services for some of the services that an A&E could do, and that people's gone again. It's very out of time.
Thank you, John. I'm going to ask the same question to Danny Alvey, please.
Thank you. Yeah, in regards to the issue with the pharmacies not opening on Sundays, I know there's other candidates who've tried to address that issue, and I commend them for that, and I will definitely pledge to support this drive to get one of the pharmacies to open on a Sunday or a bank holiday. It's actually an issue I ran into recently myself when my partner was recovering from a C-section, and I had to drive to Greystones very early on a Sunday morning to get pain relief. However, not everyone has ready access to a car, so we should definitely have this service here in our town. One other thing I will point out in this area in County Wicklow is we don't have a neuro rehabilitation centre. There's one that's been approved for Bray, but because of a job freeze in HSE recruitment, we can't access it. And this is really important for people recovering from strokes and so on. So I think that's something that will be really beneficial. In general, look, I think medical care can be one of those things that'd be quite difficult for a councillor to address at a local level. And I think that's why being a part of a party could be very beneficial here in trying to influence national policy. And it's something the Social Democrats are very passionate about, is healthcare.
Thank you, Danny. The same question to Sonia Casey-Shortt, please.
Thank you. So as you know, I work in the health service. I'm passionate about health service, but I know that there are lots of areas that need further development, and community health services is one of them. But I think it's coming. The Sláinte Care reform programme is underway, and its focus is about integration of acute and community services, which really is about delivering the care where it's needed, as close to the patient, as possible, be it in their communities or in their home. And I think that's a good initiative. We're on a journey. We're not there yet, but I think it's the right direction of travel. Around the issue of pharmacies, I remember a time when the pharmacies in the town had a rota between themselves to provide services on Sundays and bank holidays. And I know it's difficult because they're commercial enterprises, and they're not, as I say, legislated or regulated in that regard. But I'll work with them to try and get a voluntary rota up and running. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. The same question to Mia Fahey McCarthy, please.
Thank you. As both Danny and Sonia have just pointed out, I suppose in terms of at a council level, being realistic about how much effect you can change, not to kind of overpromise on something that actually is legislated for at another level, but being able to, suppose, see what is within your gift. So in terms of with the pharmacy piece, again, being a commercial enterprise and they make whatever decisions they make, but being able to kind of discuss with them and see if there's any compromise that can be kind of met amongst them, or also looking at other practical kind of areas, whether there could be pharmacies in other areas that could maybe do deliveries. So just being able to see what potential solutions there could be for the fact that people can't access services over the weekend at the moment. And I think in terms of, again, being part of a party is where maybe there's strength in being able to kind of lobby for at a county level to be able to kind of push and see where the gaps are in terms of that medical infrastructure, and being able to very much bring that to the people that can actually affect the change.
Thank you, Mia. The same question to Anthony Hill, please.
Yeah, so in terms of local pharmacies being open on, like you say, bank holidays and Sundays and stuff like that, obviously, like especially for people who can't drive or have no access to transport, that's a big issue like that needs to be addressed. I heard Sonia saying about there used to be a road or something between the pharmacies, which is very interesting. I don't see like why maybe they couldn't look at that again, or like if I got elected, I suppose like I'm a very proactive person. That's just the way I am, and like I would go down and I'd ask them, was that something they'd be interested in, or like I'm not even sure if that works, to be honest, which is, but like, what I will do is I will try find the solution to the problem. And then I suppose with the doctors things as well, I know like waiting lists are like five weeks or something like that for like a doctor's appointment, and it's crazy. Like obviously that's a massive thing that needs to be looked at. The healthcare system in Ireland is not up to standard, and hopefully something can be done about it.
Thank you, Anthony. And the same question, please, to Mary Kavanagh.
Thank you. Around about last July, I wrote to the 8 pharmacies between Wicklow, Rathnew and Ashford, and 3 of them replied, and one of them phoned me to say that they would love to help, but unfortunately there's a shortage of locums in the country, and there's a shortage of pharmacy graduates from our 3rd levels colleges. Every pharmacy has to have a qualified pharmacy on site, and if no locums are available, then pharmacists are not willing to work 7 days a week. And really, you know, who can blame them? Everybody's entitled to a work-life balance. I asked them would they consider a rotating basis, and they said it could be problematic because you have Sundays and bank holidays, and again the problem of having to work 7 days a week. I did consider that we might look at something like dispensing machines. It's quite a far off idea, but I just thought it might be a great idea to have them located in supermarkets, but to get around the legislative challenges of dispensing without a pharmacist. But I do think there's an idea there.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, we're going to move on again. And the next question is in relation to social inclusion. And the question is, what is your stance on social inclusion? And how would you create a society within which everybody can thrive and feel that they belong? And issues that came up in relation to that were providing accommodation for asylum seekers, doing walkability audits, plans and actions in terms of making spaces accessible, and what would be done in order to make Wicklow as a county be the best place to grow old in. So those are our examples in relation to this heading. So what is your stance on social inclusion? And how would you create a society in which everybody can thrive and feel that they belong? And I'm going to ask Danny Alvey to answer that question first, please.
Thank you. Looking first of all to asylum seekers, there's been a lot of attention recently on asylum seeker accommodation, and there's no doubt there's been considerable recent increases in the number of asylum seekers coming to Ireland, but there's still only a total of 30,000 currently in state provided accommodation according to IPAS across the entire country. So that's only 1 for every 170 people. So for a town like 10,000 people, that's just 60 people. So I think we should and could be able to accommodate those in local communities if we did it in the right way and with the right supports. In terms of walkability and accessibility, I touched earlier on walkability and accessibility audits. I think we definitely need to do more of them in all of our towns and villages to accommodate older people and people with disabilities, but also to include their voices in the decision-making process. And finally, in terms of growing old in the area, I think was the last part of that question. Yeah, I think this is something we definitely need to pursue.
Thank you, Danny.
Long question.
Same question, please, to Sonia Casey-Shortt.
Great, thank you. Well, I'm an advocate for social inclusion. I led the development of an equal opportunities and diversity employment policy for the health service. And that was underpinned obviously by the employment equality and equal status legislation. But that policy committed the health service as an equal opportunities employer to treat all employees and potential employees equally in terms of recruitment, terms and conditions, training opportunities, and career progression, regardless of their status, regardless, it didn't matter whatever their marital status, family status, gender, age, race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, gender, or membership of the traveller community. And I think that's been very worthwhile. The health service couldn't function without people from overseas that have been supporting us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Same question, please, to Mia Fahey McCarthy.
Yeah, in terms of social inclusion, I would support the concept, and I would like to see Wicklow be a welcoming space for all who are in it. I think recent census figures would show that in terms of people that have moved to the area that would be outside of Ireland, the numbers are increasing. So we need to recognise, I suppose, the needs of the established community that are here, and also those newly arrived. As somebody has mentioned earlier, in terms of Trudder House, it's quite a contentious issue at the moment, and it's on everybody's minds. Ultimately, people are coming and they're living in Newtown for now. I suppose engagement is a key piece, that people feel informed about any changes that are being made. But I think, ultimately this is happening, and we need to kind of come together as a community and see how we can move forward. In terms of the accessibility piece, I think, again, having everybody's voices concerned, so the service users effectively need to be consulted on any issues.
Thank you, Mia. Same question to Anthony Hill, please.
Yeah, so I'd be big on social inclusion as well. I've done quite a bit of work in the past through my volunteering experience with different demographics and community groups, and I think, well, just to give you a quick example there, I suppose the St. Patrick's Day Parade there, I volunteered, and it was great to see so many different people from all walks of life engaging with it, and it was a great turnout. Like, so, and then in terms of like the immigration issue, we need a fair, efficient, and enforced immigration system. The system that's in place at the moment, well, it has clearly failed. So, I think it needs to be looked at, and provisions and plans need to be put in place on how to tackle the issue better. Like, so that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Anthony. And the same question to Mary Kavanagh, please.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I always work on the basis that everybody's equal and no one should be excluded from anything for any reason. And I'd like to think that this is the case, but it isn't always the case. There is often a lot of discrimination out there. I see a lot of it in the area of disability. I see things like people who don't require disability parking taking up parking spaces for disabled users. I see them blocking footpaths with cars and mobility scooters and wheelchairs, and also mothers and fathers with buggies can't pass. So I just would consider that to be, discriminatory to a certain extent. As regards inward migration, I think there's an awful lot of work to be done on breaking down barriers, and I think a lot of that can be done through trying to, bring people together and to realise that we're more the same than we are different.
Thank you, Mary. And to John Larkin, please.
Yeah, I'll take the last part of the question first. It's about elderly people. In Ireland at the moment, we don't have a credible GP service after 5 o'clock in the evening. We don't have we don't have villages like in the UK. The NHS would run rings around us because they have villages for elderly people where they can go in and everything is provided for them. So in Ireland, I was only in Portugal, where you see all the elderly people out enjoying themselves. But in Ireland, the only option if you don't have a daughter or a son to care for you is that you end up in a nursing home. That's the problem, because there's no GP service after 5 o'clock in the evening. So where do you have to go? They have to go into A&E. You don't have the elderly villages for them like you have in the UK. And sorry, I thought that was gone. And that's the big issue, and that's why they end up in nursing homes far too early in their life. Getting on to the social inclusion, you see the other.
Thank you, John. Okay, we're going to move on to another question now, and that is in relation to crime. So the question is, in regard to crime, what would you like to see happening locally to make our community safe for all, including migrants and asylum seekers? And I'm going to come in the first instance to Sonia Casey-Shortt, please, on this one.
Thank you. I suppose what I'd like to see, first of all, is more Gardaí. In Wicklow, I understand there are 291 Gardaí in the Wicklow division, but we need an increase in Gardaí, an increased visible presence on our streets and in our communities. We also need more community Garda. At the moment we have 8, and in 2016 we had 14. So we need those community Gardaí that do a lot of the liaison work with our communities to increase. Our population has increased by nearly 10%. According to the last census, and this needs to be matched by an increase in Gardaí. And then there's some other practical measures that can help reduce crime, with having more lighting in areas so that people feel safer and more visible walking home. Practical things like that can be delivered by the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. And Mia Fahey McCarthy, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I think increased numbers of Gardaí is one. Just to say, I recently, last week or the week before, I had reason to call the guards. There was a man who was near the edge of the Black Castle cliffs in quite a state, and I was concerned that he may fall in, which thankfully he didn't. But I rang the guards, and I would say within 2 minutes they were up at the Black Castle and they had arrived. So I think well done to them in terms of the services that they do offer for the numbers. I think community guards are definitely a step forward in terms of building those relationships with the community and also the institution of the Gardaí. I remember, I think it was during the pandemic, they had a kind of a trial where one of the guards would go up and sit on one of the benches at the Black Castle for particular hours of a day, and if you wanted to, you could go up and join them for whatever reason. And I think that piece around kind of the visibility and just the kind of informal approach kind of really worked for people. So I'd like to see more initiatives like that, where it kind of builds up the trust between the community and the guards.
Thank you, Mia. And can I ask Anthony Hill the same question, please?
Yeah, so as Mia said there about the community guards, like they're vital to our communities. Like I remember as a young person myself, the community guard at the time really had an impact on breaking down barriers between young people and Gardaí. And I suppose in relation to the whole crime thing, like it's about opportunities for young people. Like Wicklow, obviously sporting is a big thing in Wicklow, and I know when young people are engaged in sports, they're less likely to be engaged in criminal activity and antisocial behaviour. So it's very important that, as we've already spoke about, more services, infrastructure and facilities for young people so they can spend their time engaging in productive activities. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Anthony. Same question to Mary Kavanagh, please.
Thank you. Yeah, personally, I think that the role of community policing is very important, and there should be more community Gardaí. Unfortunately, though, despite the huge increase in population in the area, and I'm talking about, from Ashford, Rathnew, Wicklow, the Garda numbers have gone down. And this is having an adverse effect on crime. It means that Gardaí are stretched even further, and it's having an effect on morale as well. So I would hope that our current government or any future government would try and make becoming a Gardaí, a member of the Gardaí, a more attractive proposition and career choice for people, because we really, really need them. We've never needed them as much as we need them now. And I'd also like to see more CCTV around our towns and villages. And I'll bring this up at council level if I'm re-elected.
Thank you, Mary. And the same question to John Larkin, please.
Yeah, Mary just touched on it there. CCTV is the answer. Some years ago in Season Park, or 3 or 4, 4 or 5 years ago, we had a lot of break-ins and we had a lot of antisocial behaviour. And we decided between being on the Season Park Residents Group, we decided that we would go for a CCTV. So, you know, we collected money from all the houses, we installed the CCTV, we installed ANPR cameras on all the approaches to the estate. ANPR cameras are cameras that record all the numbers of cars. We have a data controller. It rolls over, so it's completely GDPR compliant. Now, a lot of other associations wanted to copy what we had done, but they were blocked by people because of GDPR. Wicklow County Council were very unhelpful to them, and like Kilcool was supposed to have had one done some years ago, but because of bureaucracy, it never happened.
Thank you, John. And the same question to Danny Alvey, please.
Thanks. I think a lot of us touched on a lot of similar points in answer to this, but yes, I think visible policing is really important in local communities. We definitely need to see more Gardaí allocated to the towns and villages across the county, especially community Gardaí. The recent increase in numbers here in Newtown and Kennedy is welcome. The community Garda here in Newtown have been excellent over the years. I've worked with them closely through Newtown Tidy Towns. Unfortunately, their job has been made very difficult here in Newtown, where we've had huge issues around the decision to locate an IPAS centre of the town. And I believe this stems from really bad management of the entire process by the government and their chaotic approach to the asylum system at the minute, in my own eyes. I feel if there'd be accurate information from the start, a credible plan, community engagement, and better community buy-in, this could have been a very different story altogether. And instead, in the vacuum of information, there's been fear amongst the local people and a backlash against the Gardaí, and the community Gardaí have recently acknowledged to me they've got a tough job ahead of them in terms of building bridges again with the local population.
Thank you, Danny. Okay, we're going to move on again, and this is another slight change of focus. It's quite a specific question this time. In view of the locked gate blocking access to Wicklow Head, would the candidates present or support a motion for Wicklow County Council to use one of the few powers they have to compulsorily purchase land there to restore access for the hundreds of walkers to that part of the municipal district? So just again, because people who are listening may not know these questions as much as the candidates do, because they've seen them before, they were pre-circulated. In view of the lock gate blocking access to Wicklow Head, would you as a candidate present or support a motion for Wicklow County Council to use one of the few powers that they have to compulsorily purchase land to restore access for the hundreds of walkers to Wicklow Head? And I'm going to start, please, by asking Mia Fahey McCarthy.
Yes, in theory, I would support any motion to look at the compulsory purchase. I suppose I would want to see, given that I'm not an existing candidate and I'm a first-time candidate, what has been done up until now in terms of interrogating all options to see whether this could be resolved. I know I recently drove up there with my mother, and she had a Spanish student, and we wanted to show them, you know, the beautiful walks and all the rest of it, and we were confronted by the gate and couldn't go any further. Obviously, it's a huge amenity, and in terms of even day trippers coming from Dublin or wherever out to Wicklow, it's a beautiful walk that could be used, and there's the nice loop there. I'm not privy to the ongoing disputes around it, so I would want to investigate all of the facts. But if it was found that there was potentially no other options, I would definitely support a motion to look at the compulsory purchase piece, because I think it's an amenity that at this point and at this juncture is just not there for a whole cohort of Wicklow residents, which seems to be a real pity.
Thank you, Mia. The same question to Anthony Hill, please.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't really know much about it. It'll be definitely something I will be looking into. Like I used to run up the Wicklow Head every single day, years ago. Like so, it's literally only just up the road from me, and I'd like to see it open back up to the community because it's an important amenity for the community. I did attend Keep Ireland Open Access annual conference about a month and a half ago, and we were talking about these issues, and but to be honest with you, that was my first kind of insight into the problems we have around access. And but look, I'm learning, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the candidates here now to see what they have to say about it, so maybe I can learn a little bit. So thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. I'm going to move on and ask the same question to Mary Kavanagh, please.
Okay, the question is, would I support a motion for Wicklow County Council to use their powers to compulsorily purchase land there? I would, but at first I would prefer to see meaningful dialogue taking place between the landowner and the council to see if there are any issues that could be resolved. I always feel dialogue is the first avenue to go down. Compulsory purchase orders are just, they can be very damaging to parties, and I would really like to see them go down the dialogue route. This issue has been ongoing for a number of years now, and it has been brought up time and time again at municipal district council level, and it should have been sorted by now. So, the council really does need to speed up the process they're currently engaged in, or whether that's looking at legal documents or whatever, I don't know. I think it's with the law agent, but it really needs to be, needs to be concluded. We need to have an answer, a resolution. Yes.
Thank you, Mary. Same question, please, to John Larkin.
Yeah, I'm a member of Keep Ireland Open, an organisation which strives to preserve the public rights of way. I was involved in the protest going out to the lighthouse at Wicklow. And when we got to the gate, I suppose there was about maybe 100 people there. I think there wasn't one councillor there from the Wicklow Municipal District that day. And we just hopped over the gate and we went on our way down to the lighthouse. Beautiful view. And we came back up again. Now, Wicklow County Council are at fault here, and our councillors as well, because they are mandated under the Development Acts of 2000, where they are mandated to map all the public rights of way in the county, and they're also mandated to list them. So everyone should know. About 10 counties in Ireland have done that, but Wicklow haven't done it. So therefore, people are not aware of where the public rights of way are in.
Thank you, John. And I'm going to ask the same question to Danny Alvey.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm a big advocate of CPOs when used in the right context, and absolutely support the call to keep Ireland open. I think we're far behind the UK when it comes to rights of way legislation. I think there's a lot of area that needs to be, a lot of work that needs to be done in this area. I'd be supportive of the principle in motion, but I'd want to see more of the details first around specific land and costs. And I also think negotiations with the landowner and clarifying some issues is often the first port of call around injuries and insurance, and sometimes can be a very effective route. In terms of CPOs in general, I think we should absolutely be considering them when the public good outweighs the private interest. I've been calling for a CPO on the playground in Ashford, for example, where a dispute with the landowner means a perfectly good playground developed by the district, and the people of Ashford is now sitting idle. So I think in this instance, a CPO is definitely warranted, and the council should be investigating it.
Thank you, Danny. And to Sonia Casey-Shortt as well.
Great, thank you. I think COVID really demonstrated the value of our outdoor and recreational spaces, and it really highlighted the need to protect these amenities. Compulsory purchase orders, I understand, are long and complex processes, and I, like other candidates here, I'm first-time candidate. I'm not aware of the background and the detailed discussions that have happened up to now, but if compulsory purchase order is determined to be the best way forward and the appropriate way forward, then obviously I would support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Okay, we're going to move to another question. Again, a slight shift. I think you could loosely say this is all related to waste, and I'm going to read it out because the question itself includes sort of a range of issues. So what will you do if elected to address the significant amount of dog feces in Wicklow town, particularly on Green Hills Road? Also, the significant amount of rubbish in Golden Arches. Could a bin be located there? Wicklow town needs more public toilets, and how will you work to address this? Okay, so I'm going to ask that in the first instance to Anthony Hill, please.
Yeah, well, as a resident of the Green Hill Road myself, I am well aware of the issue. I think, well, I was talking to a local worker that helps keep the place clean, like, you know, and he said to me that he reckons he collects 2 ton of dog feces a week. And he said that he is not aware of anyone who has been prosecuted for this as of yet. So I don't know if it's an enforcement issue or like, in fairness, there is the dog poo bin bags around the town. So I don't know, I think people just need to be more considerate of others. And public toilets thing, I'd like to see more public toilets around the place, yeah. So thanks.
Thank you, Anthony. And I'm going to ask the same question to Mary Kavanagh, please.
Okay. Yeah, the problem of dog fouling is a real one, given the increase in population in our towns, and also the increase in the number of dogs especially since COVID, when everybody got dogs for the period that they were coped up. And while we hope that all dog owners will behave responsibly, as we all know, many don't, unfortunately. And if I was re-elected, I'd request more use of the dog feces cleaning machine on a regular basis. It is used, but because of the number of dogs and the number of incidences, I don't think that it's used enough. And I think there should be more campaigns to highlight the problems of dog fouling, such as posters displayed near popular walks with signs of, you know, an X through a dog pooping or whatever. And eventually people hopefully would get the message. But at the end of the day, people are responsible for their dogs. With regard to toilets, I'm working on getting the harbour toilets refurbished. So hopefully we'll have toilets there, and hopefully someday toilets down at the children's play park.
Thank you, Mary. The same question to John Larkin, please.
Well, again, the only way, did you say it was dumping, is it? Dumping in dog feces, is it? Yeah, the only answer again to this is that it is CCTV cameras. It's the only way that if there is illegal dumping there, or if there is, you know, people being not responsible for the dogs. I mean, what other way can you do it unless you have dog wardens or you litter wardens on patrol there? Like, how are you going to be able to police it? And so the only way around, and in definitely in a lot of areas, CCTV is where people have dumped, and that's the only way you can record it. As relation to, with regard to public toilets, I'm not, you know, I don't live in Wicklow town, so I don't know how many you would use per person, or what towns do they use, but you know, they should be within a reasonable distance of where people are out walking or people taking recreation. So, you know, the more the better, like, within reason.
Thank you, John. The same question to Danny Alvey, please.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is an issue that's come up quite a lot on the doors, especially down in Wicklow town. And as it happens, I have a press release going out on this very issue tomorrow, because I've just got a Freedom of Information request back from Wicklow County Council that reveals that just one fine was issued for dog fouling in all of 2023. And furthermore, to date, there's only been one fine issued in 2024, which shows two things: both that the enforcement is extremely low, but secondly, that enforcement is possible if they've been able to issue even one fine. So I think there needs to be a lot more resources put in place in this area. It might seem like a low priority issue, but some of the stories I've heard on doors about mothers of children in wheelchairs and people using mobility scooters up around the Hawkstown Road, Marlton area, and coming home and having dog feces, or being in school all day and having dog feces on their wheelchairs is really terrible. In terms of bins here in Newtown Mount Kennedy, we've done a lot of work in the Tidy Town trying to get more bins along our main street, and we've been quite successful in that area. So I'd be happy to work in Wicklow Town on that as well.
Thank you, Danny. Same question to Sonia Casey-Shortt, please.
Thank you. Can I concentrate on the public toilets? I think facilities like these need to be provided in lots of different areas in our community. We are a tourist hub, and we don't have enough public toilets. And it's not just Wicklow Town. Also, the likes of Lara Village is the gateway to Glendalough, and Glendalough has 1 million visitors a year, and yet there are no public toilet facilities in the village. So I think, yes, I would definitely be advocating and working for the provision of more public toilets. And I'd be calling for adequate resources to be provided at budget time. Because we need money for those, so I'd be advocating at budget time in the council for more resources. And I mean, the dog pieces, it's the dog fouling, it's a real issue, and particularly, as Danny mentioned, for mothers with buggies, wheelchair users, mobility scooters, it's just disgraceful, and people need to be responsible for their dogs. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. And to Mia Fahey McCarthy, please.
Thank you. As Sonia just mentioned there, I have been one of those mothers who has had to clean that dog poo off her child up at the Black Castle in the Green area, and also down around the Murrah. It's a huge problem, and as Mary mentioned earlier, I suppose the increase in people that got dogs during COVID. There's the piece around this of the council being able to put in the infrastructure to support those responsible dog owners who do clean up after the dogs, so making sure the bins are emptied on a regular basis. You also have the speakers that come out of the polls kind of alerting people to the fact that they need to clean up after the dogs, but ultimately it comes down to personal responsibility. I'd like to think we'd create a bit of an environment where if people see somebody doing and not picking up after the dog, that there'd be a sense of you could actually kind of call them out on it and potentially remind them of what they need to do. But I know people nowadays feel quite afraid to speak up and say things. So maybe if there was kind of a collective decision and a culture around being able to not let people do these things. In terms of the toilet piece, again, during the pandemic, there was temporary toilets put in. And so I suppose that acted as a good kind of barometer of the need for them.
Thank you, Mia. Okay, I'm going to make it even more exciting by shortening the clock space to just 30 seconds to keep our candidates on their toes. So these are sort of quick round responses, just the last few questions, and it helps us get through all of the things that came in. So the first of these questions, and I'm going to come first to Mary Kavanagh on this, is what are you doing in your own life to help reduce your carbon footprint or your climate impact?
Okay, well, I'm a big recycler, so I recycle everything from paper, plastic, bottles, tins, clothes, furniture, household goods. I bring them to charity shops or free sites, anything that I can get rid of. I hate waste. I got part of my house insulated on the inside because I have no insulation whatsoever, because I wanted to cut down on fuel use, so that's made a big difference. I use a composter for all my vegetables and fruit waste, and I try and buy Irish fruit and veg whenever I can, because there's a lower carbon footprint on them. That's it.
Sorry, couldn't get my mute button off then. John Larkin, same question to you. You're still on mute, sorry, John.
Everything that I can that would be recyclable, I would do it, and that's it. And certainly as well as insulation my house as well, so that we retain the heat in it as much as possible and use less of fossil fuels. And I don't take too many holidays, so which is, Mary Robinson is on about carbon footprint, but she's on the plane all the time. So within reason, like, we grow our own. Oh, sorry, did I run out of time? No.
You did, yes, sorry. Thank you, John. And I'm going to ask the same question to Danny Alvey, please.
Yes, obviously very interested in, and thankfully for me, my carbon footprint is greatly reduced by the number of trees that I plant all around the place. With Rewild Wicklow, we passed the 10,000 tree mark there this spring. So hopefully that has me in the good books in that area. And also I rely a lot on public transport to get in and out of work. And that's a necessity, but it also helps the carbon footprint. I'd love to get an electric vehicle, but of course the problem is the expense of these at the minute. But something I would aspire to have in the future to go around to do all my tree planting.
Thank you very much, Danny. Same question to Sonia Casey-Shortt, please.
Thank you. Well, we've during COVID, we dug up a large section of our lawn and planted a wildflower meadow to let you know, a bit of biodiversity in, and that was a great project. We also have a hedge that's native plants to support wildlife, and then I recycle and reuse wherever possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Same question to Mayor Fahey McCarthy, please.
I would look at where I can. I do drive an EV, one on the lower end of the budget scale. So consequently, the range on it is really, really short. But where I can avoid taking a car and can walk somewhere, I would choose to take those journeys. I would look at shopping local where I can do, and also in season as much as I can. And in terms of kind of buying, say for example with clothes, I would look to swap with others. Just before Christmas I organised a toy swap in the library in Wicklow where people could bring toys and swap them for other toys. So they'd be the types of things I would do.
Thank you, Mia. And lastly to Anthony Hill, please.
Yeah, so keep it simple, using water bottles instead of buying plastic bottles. Well, growing up, I suppose, like we always had the recycling bin, you know, and so yeah, big on recycling. Coffee cups as well. A great initiative. I don't know if people are aware, or maybe you are, but the reusable coffee cups. I think that's a great idea because, especially in the hustle and bustle of today and the coffee culture, if all people could get on board with this, all of our carbon footprint would be reduced.
Thank you, Anthony. Okay, so again, moving on, keeping the answers short to the 30-second limit. The next question is, which in your opinion takes priority, party loyalty or the benefit of all your constituents? So which in your opinion takes priority, party loyalty or the benefit of all your constituents? And I'm going to start with asking that question to John Larkin, please.
After I answer this, I have to go to a meeting up in Prudder House, so I just have to be brief with you. As I said, I'm an independent candidate, and as I stated at the start, the whole idea is that your loyalty and you're answerable and accountable to the person on the doorstep. And whereas if you're a party, if you're a member of a party, your loyalty then has to be to the party first and the people second, because if not, you will be removed from the party. So as an sorry,
yeah, thanks, John.
I have to go because I have to go up to a meeting in Prudder House. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And thank you very much for inviting me. Okay.
Thank you, John. Okay.
Thanks very much, John.
Not at all. And the best of luck to you all, and we'll see you on the 7th.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Okay, the same question to Danny Alvey, please.
Yeah, to be brief, I think the public good always has to take the priority over the party. You know, a political party is about individuals with a common ideology and goals coming together to join forces. It's not about something you should have loyalty to, like a football club that you see through in the good and the bad. And for that reason, I admire politicians like Casey-Shortt who have walked away from their party when it was compromising on its principles.
Thank you, Danny. The same question to Sonia Casey-Shortt, please.
Thank you. Obviously, benefit for your constituents will always outweigh the party politics, but thankfully I'm a member of a party whose policies I agree with. So thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Mia Fahey McCarthy, please.
Yeah, similarly, I think having been elected, you are accountable to the constituents. So I suppose depending very much what made this choice for you, have to choose between party loyalty or the constituents. But I think in most cases, it would be the constituents because ultimately they voted you in and ultimately you are serving them. But again, I would like to think the Green Party is a very progressive party and that the policies of that party would be very much aligned with also the constituents as well. So hopefully there wouldn't be a choice to be made.
Thank you, Mia. And Anthony Hill?
Yeah, well, look, the way I am, if someone asks me for help, I'll help them, like, so. Yeah, I have the backing of the party and I'm a very proud member of Sinn Féin. I think it is time for change. But on that as well, like, I help people. That's what I do for a living. So that's what I intend to do. And that's my bottom line. So if someone reaches out to me, if anyone's watching this video and you reach out to me, I will get back to you and I will try my best to help you in any way I can.
Thank you, Anthony. And to Mary Kavanagh, please.
Well, as an independent, I'm not a member of a party, so there's never a conflict of interest, which is a nice position to be in. I do have a lot of independent colleagues, and we often, you know, think together along the same lines that we support each other, but we're equally free to just vote independently of each other and, you know, just go with whatever our own instincts tell us to do, and always in the benefit as we see it for our constituents. They have to take priority because they're the people who vote for us.
Thank you very much, Mary. We are doing bionically against the clock in terms of these questions. We're down to our last two, so we will, I think, hopefully get them in before the cutoff point. The next question is again quite specific. In the matter of county council procurement of goods and services, how would you ensure that those goods and services labelled green are truly sustainable throughout their production, use and disposal? Okay, so in the matter of county council procurement of goods and services, how would you ensure that those goods and services that are labelled green are truly sustainable throughout their production, use and disposal? And I'm going to ask that question first to Danny Alvey, please.
Yeah, look, that's a tricky area to get into, is trying to define the sustainability processes from the start all the way through companies. But as a whole, I think green procurement is definitely something that we should support and investigate. And I think, you know, councils are a great opportunity to set examples for the rest of society to look at that. And also, as well, green procurement, I think local procurement is really beneficial, both for in terms of carbon footprint, but also local economies.
Thank you, Danny. Sonia, Casey-Shortt.
Sorry, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think we need to hold the council to account and make sure that they do their due diligence around proper procurement processes and the green and sustainability. And as Danny says, the local element needs to be to the fore. So I'm not a procurement expert, but I think we need to make sure that the council does the work in that regard around the due diligence on any procurement process. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Same question to Mia Fahey McCarthy.
I think it's a case of looking at our procurement process, or the council's procurement process, and looking at the tendering side of things and what questions are we asking of our supply chain, and also then what evidence are we requiring them to provide in order for us to be able to ensure that what they're saying is the truth. So being able to have clear processes across the supply chain, and also where we can tender locally or provisions in for more of that local spend. Again, obviously that has an impact in terms of keeping the euros within the county.
Thank you very much. And same question to Anthony Hill, please.
Yeah, so it's very important for public bodies to seek to produce goods and services to reduce the environmental impact. I remember I went to a CopyCon thing a few years ago, and the plastic cups they have a label that says environmentally friendly, but they weren't actually environmentally friendly. There was they said there was silver lining inside it to keep the heat in the coffee, but they put these labels on it to portray to the consumer that they were all about the environment. So it's like a marketing strategy. And like, look, listen, I actually don't know, but yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Anthony. And Mary Kavanagh, please.
Okay, well, one of the things that I would suggest would be that the audit committee carries out a green audit, because as Anthony just said there, there's an awful lot of greenwashing out there as well, and people would need to know that if they're buying something that they believe to be a green option, that it does exactly what it says on the tin. And that would be something that I would like to follow up on. And the other thing is the circular economy, to ensure that the council, gets itself involved in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, we're down to our last question, and that is pretty pertinent given that we're talking to candidates here, and it is, how can we engage with councillors, and the we is the community here, how can we engage with councillors outside of the local election period? Okay, and I'm going to ask that question first to Sonia Casey-Shortt.
Great. Well, I'm a member of the community, so I will obviously be available and accessible to everybody. I think I'm an approachable person. I don't think anybody will have a problem either sending me an email or picking up the phone. And my contact details obviously are out there in the public domain. If there's a particular reason why I can't contact people or revert to them immediately, obviously, I'll get back to them as soon as possible. As I said earlier, I believe communication is a key.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Fahey McCarthy.
Thank you. I suppose as somebody who isn't a councillor, again, running for the first time, from my perspective, sometimes the council feels a little bit difficult to navigate, and it seems a little bit uncertain as to where you go for certain things. So I would like to see, if I was to be elected, I would like to see an avenue where it is more of an easier space to navigate for people, and whether there's kind of informational sessions that happen on a weekly basis where people can kind of drop in and engage with councillors, whether there's other ways that they can access the information that's online in a simpler way. So I just think making accessibility a key point.
Thank you, Mia. Anthony Hill.
Yeah, so communication is key. If you have anything at all, just reach out to me, and through email, through phone. My bottom line is I will get back to you, because that's what I'm hearing on the doors. That there's not enough of getting back to people, so I'm really, really going to nail that down. And I think if I stick to that one principle, I'll do quite well. So, yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Anthony. And Mary Kavanagh, please.
Yeah, like other councillors, all my details are online, my email, my phone number, and I'm also on social media, on Facebook, and I get an awful lot of contact through that on message. I kind of have a principle that I would try to get back to anybody who contacts me as soon as possible. Sometimes I get an awful lot of emails, and it could take a while to sift through them, but I try to get through them all. I deal with the important ones first, and then I get back to the other ones, but I like to contact everybody.
Thank you, Mary. And lastly to Danny Alvey, please.
Thanks. Yeah, look, I don't think there's anyone on this call who wouldn't reply to an email or a phone call sent directly to them looking for help or engagement in any way. But I think the more important question really is how can the public engage with council work and contribute to it? I think the town team in Wicklow Town has been very successful at getting local people who aren't politicians engaged in council work, and I'd like to see one here where I am in Newtown Mount Kennedy set up as well, and I would encourage people to contribute and take part in that.
Thank you, Danny, and thank you all very much. That's concludes the questions that we had. Thank you for sticking with it's a long evening session, but I think this evening and all the other hosting meetings for the MDs in Wicklow County are a massively important part of supporting local democracy for people who not every candidate is going to reach every doorstep. This is a phenomenal opportunity for people to capture an experience and to listen to each of you. And we'd like to thank you for your time here this evening. As you're aware, this is being videoed and it will go up onto the PPN's YouTube channel. That's securing for the previous MD hustings that we've done a lot of views, and obviously is being shared and clips being taken off it. So we'd like to really thank you for giving up your time this evening, but assure you that it is reaching out to those community organisations that have also taken all that interest in putting in the questions to you. So thank you very much. I'm going to hand over to Karina Holmes now, who's going to see us out. So thank you.
Thanks, Harriet. Just on behalf of Wicklow PPN and Wicklow's Older People's Council, I would like to thank you all for joining us this evening. We'd also like to thank Harriet for facilitating our event. We hope that this meeting has given our members a sound introduction to all the candidates. We also hope that the meeting has provided an insight into where all the candidates' interests lie and what work and issues they might prioritise if they are successful on the 7th of June. We hope that in turn, the meeting has given the candidates an insight into the concerns and priorities of our members. And should they be successful on the 7th of June, they will work towards achieving positive outcomes on many, if not all, of these issues. As Conor from the PPN Secretariat mentioned earlier, it wasn't possible to ask all the questions that were submitted individually. We have developed a document containing all the questions, and this was sent to the candidates in the hope that they will use them as a reminder of what our members see as important and what our members will use to measure the work by in the future. A link to the document will also be shared in the upcoming PPN newsletter. We'd encourage you to have a look at the PPN election special newsletter sent on 26th of April. All newsletters are on the PPN website. We would also like to draw the candidates' attentions to the visions for community wellbeing that were developed from extensive consultations in 2018 and reviewed during consultations in 2022. These can be found on the Wicklow PPN website. The Wicklow MD Vision for Community Wellbeing states that Wicklow MD is a diverse, vibrant and inclusive community that values and nurtures all its citizens to live healthy lives and achieve their potential in an environmentally sensitive and sustainable community. We hope that the collaboration engagement this evening continues and that we can work together to achieve this vision. We wish the candidates well in their endeavours and thank them and our members for their attendance tonight. And good night. And just can I thank Helen and Sonia also for their phenomenal organisation of these events, which we have received very positive feedback on. Thank you.